Welcome to the 2022 Denver Energy Code Highlights for Residential Buildings training. This training was developed in partnership with Denver Community Planning and Development and the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resiliency. This training is a high-level summary of certain key changes to the residential provisions of the 2022 Denver Energy Code. This training applies to residential buildings, which include 1 and 2 family dwellings, townhouses, and R3 and R4 occupancies 3 stories and less. Please refer to the full 2022 Denver Building Code on the City and County of Denver website for full code language. For additional trainings and resources, please visit denvergov.org/netzero. The City and County of Denver has set forth energy efficiency and decarbonization goals for new homes. This timeline helps to recap Denver's plan for new homes. As you can see, the 2022 Denver Energy Code went into effect on May 1st, 2023, and is a step in a series of steps that leads to the ultimate goal of zero greenhouse gas emissions. The code is the accumulation of a process which began with goal setting and included input from a wide variety of community members and stakeholders. Denver's goal is for all new homes to be designed as net zero energy by 2027 and perform as net zero energy by 2030. Efficiency alone does not reach this goal. Our conclusion is that efficiency, electrification, and a greener grid working together are the only way to reach zero greenhouse gas emissions. This means we all have a part to play to contribute to this change, and we have time to accomplish this incrementally. This chart shows progress needed to meet the city's net zero energy 2030 goals. It is based on carbon intensity. The net zero energy trajectory path is represented by the blue dashed line, with the goal that new residential buildings are designed as net zero energy by 2027 and perform as net zero energy by 2030. The blue dot noted DEC 2019 represents the 2019 Denver Energy Code. The blue dot clouded in green represents the 2022 Denver Energy Code. You can see the progress residential operational emissions have made from the 2019 Denver Energy Code to the 2022 Denver Energy Code. For residential, we are on the path towards net zero energy in 2030. We have made great progress for this code cycle. The following topics and provisions of the 2022 Denver Energy Code are covered in this training. This is not an exhaustive list of all of the changes from the 2019 to the 2022 Denver Energy Code, but a selection of those that have been identified as the biggest or most impactful changes for design and construction teams. Prescriptive compliance requires that a project comply with the entirety of all applicable provisions in sections R401 through R404, as well as section R408, which will be covered on the next slide. The prescriptive envelope requirements outlined in tables R402.1.2 and R402.1.3 have been modified in the 2022 Denver Energy Code compared to the 2021 IECC. Window U factors are reduced for higher thermal performance. A requirement for maximum window solar heat gain coefficient has been set. And insulation options for wood-framed walls have been modified to include an option for cavity-only insulation and increase the R value for continuous-only insulation. Floor insulation has also been increased. Projects complying prescriptively will need to comply with the additional efficiency credits required by section R408. The new credit method in R408 increases flexibility for prescriptive compliance with a variety of efficiency measures to choose from, while promoting a more energy efficient building than previous code cycles. Mixed fuel buildings must achieve a minimum of 18 credits by selecting measures from table R408.1 to incorporate into the design. All electric properties have an easier path to compliance and only need to achieve 3 credits in addition to meeting requirements for electric space and water heating. Under the 2022 Denver Energy Code, Projects may select from one of three compliance paths. In addition to the prescriptive path, there are two energy modeling-based paths that projects may follow. Total building performance, or Section R405, provides more flexibility than prescriptive compliance by allowing for trade-offs in envelope performance, but does not allow for most trade-offs with lighting, HVAC, or service hot water. Projects must comply with the provisions in Table R405.2. Project performance is rated in terms of annual energy cost savings above the standard reference design. Energy Rating Index, or Section R406, provides the most flexibility because envelope, MEP systems, and lighting all contribute to the Energy Rating Index. Projects must comply with the provisions listed in Table R406.2. Project performance is rated in terms of Energy Rating Index, or ERI. For both pathways, all electric buildings have an easier path to compliance to promote building electrification and align with Denver's net zero energy goals. Water heating equipment location and demand responsive water heating are two new provisions for service hot water systems that are requirements for all compliance paths. Where natural gas or electric resistant storage water heaters are installed, they must be located within a space meeting the minimum size requirements. Exceptions apply to smaller storage electric water heaters or where the storage location meets the space requirements set forth by a manufacturer for a heat pump water heater. This provision has been put in place to make future building electrification more feasible by considering the increased space requirements of retrofitting to heat pump water heaters. Where electric storage water heaters are installed, they must be provided with demand response controls that have the capability of participating in a demand response program. This also includes heat pump water heaters. Exceptions apply to water heaters supplying high temperature water, those in compliance with the ASME boiler and pressure vessel code, or those using three-phase electric power. This provision has been put in place to prepare homes for participation in demand response programs, which reduce demand on the power grid and contribute to Denver's emission reduction goals. Intermittent exhaust control for bathrooms and toilet rooms is a new provision under the 2022 Denver Energy Code. Where exhaust fans serve bathrooms or toilet rooms and operate intermittently, manual controls must be provided. Additionally, another control option must be provided, either a timer, occupancy, humidity, or contaminant control. The additional control option is not required for exhaust systems serving as an integral part of ventilation systems. The provision for electric vehicle charging requirements for our occupancies was removed in the 2022 Denver Energy Code. EV charging requirements for one and two family dwelling and townhouses remain the same as the 2019 Denver Energy Code with minor updates to the language. Each new dwelling unit, new garage or carport, or on-site parking space must provide a minimum of one electric vehicle ready space that meets the requirements outlined in Section R404.4. The electric ready infrastructure or additional electric infrastructure is a new provision in the 2022 Denver Energy Code that applies to all compliance paths. Where fossil fuel appliances and equipment is installed, receptacles or junction boxes shall be provided that are capable of serving equivalently sized electric equipment. Dedicated circuit breaker space labeled for future electric equipment and all other requirements of this section must be met. Some exceptions apply where space cooling electric equipment capacity is sufficient for future electric heating capacity and for large water heating equipment serving multiple dwelling units. This provision is included to make future building electrification more feasible. The additional cost of the electric-ready infrastructure should be considered when deciding between fossil fuel or electric appliances and equipment. Solar-ready requirements are not new to this code cycle, but have been moved from the appendix of the 2019 code and adopted as main language for the 2022 Denver Energy Code. The intent of this provision is to ensure that dwellings are prepared for easy installation of solar PV in the future. New detached 1- and 2-family dwelling and townhouse projects with optimally oriented or low-sloped roofs over 600 square feet must provide a zone that is ready for future installation of a solar PV system. The future PV system size shall be at least 300 square feet or 150 square feet for a townhome. A junction box and electrical panel space must be provided for future electric equipment. Certain exceptions do apply, including a project with a permanently installed on-site renewable energy system, such as projects required to comply with the minimum renewable energy system capacity section R404.7, or buildings with a poor roof orientation or too much shading for adequate solar energy production. Minimum on-site renewable energy system capacity is a new provision that is a requirement for all compliance pathways. This provision was added to align with the overall goals of building decarbonization. New residential dwelling projects must install on-site renewable energy systems capable of producing approximately 50% of the building's annual energy use. Projects that meet the requirements of this section are exempt from the solar-ready requirements of section R404.6. Certain projects are accepted from these minimum on-site renewable requirements, such as all-electric properties, projects that meet additional performance requirements based on the selected pathway, or small dwelling units. Additionally, projects with electric, space, and water heating meeting minimum efficiency requirements may install a reduced amount of on-site renewables. Projects meeting one of these exceptions may still be required to comply with the solar-ready provision. Existing buildings undergoing a change of occupancy or use must follow the requirements of section R505 of the Denver Energy Code. Requirements and compliance options differ depending on the type of change in occupancy or use. Any space that is converted to a residential building shall comply with the requirements for additions, alterations, and repairs. Spaces undergoing a change in occupancy or use to a higher energy demand category shall comply with requirements of this code for new construction. Exceptions do apply, such as a change from a lower energy demand category that does not result in an increased energy demand. When the total UA alternative is utilized, the total building thermal envelope UA has a 10% buffer from the UA determined by the prescriptive tables. And where the total building performance or R405 path is used, the annual energy cost of the proposed design is permitted to be 10% worse than the annual energy costs allowed by R405.2. Thank you for tuning in. For more information, check out denvergov.org/netzero and denvergov.org/buildingcode.